In this video, I am going to walk you through the key steps of creating this piece of illustration of bubble tea on Procreate iPad. The original video was published as a series of YouTube real-time drawing videos on my channel. For those who love tips and tricks, you're in the right place. Let's get to work. So first, I'm gonna move this reference image on the side. So I'm gonna just recreate the key steps. So first we want a blank new layer. So whatever we draw doesn't interfere with whatever that is going on around us. So I'm gonna first paint the background, and I'm gonna sample this yellow color, the bright yellow. Originally, I just used the color drop. So I'm gonna do that and maybe move it to the very bottom. And then I created this little sticker or like post-it note type of thing. So I'm gonna create a new layer and then select white. I'm gonna use a liner brush because this piece of paper has relatively clean edge. So I'm gonna go to the liner brush. By the way, all the brushes that I'm going to use in this video or in all my videos are handcrafted by me. I am an avid brush maker and I love creating Procreate brushes and use them. So I'm not looking for perfect square or rectangle. A little wobbliness is ideal. Now looking at it, because I have the graphic in the background as well, I feel like it doesn't really contrast very well with the yellow. So I'm gonna just tweak the color a little bit. So go back to your yellow color and then tap on the adjustments panel and select hue, saturation, and brightness. So I'm just gonna desaturate it a little bit and maybe lower the brightness as well. Or you can change it to a completely different color as long as this one contrasts well. Oh, I like this pink. I think I'm gonna do that. And then now I want to create this little washi tape. So on top of the paper layer, I'm gonna create a new one and then select a blue color. And then I'm gonna go to my washi tape. I'm gonna maybe choose a different one for this. And then you can adjust the brush size to determine the width of the washi tape. I'm just gonna draw one. It's gonna look transparent, that's okay. Maybe a little bit smaller. There you go. So now let's get started with the bubble tea itself. So I'm gonna create a new layer and then use this one for sketching. So I'm gonna choose maybe a black color. Usually I use a colored pencil of like a different color, but I think it contrasts better on screen. So I'm gonna go to my colored pencils to use it for sketching. If you watched my original video, I think I used the quick shape on Procreate, which makes perfect shapes. So for example, if you were to create a perfect circle, or if you want to create an oval in this case, you can just draw a rough oval and then don't lift your pen and it will snap into the oval. And if you hold your finger on screen, and it will constrain the rotation angle to a certain degree. You can set this up. So it really depends on what kind of look and feel. If you want the oval to be a little more perfect, you can do this. Or if you want a wobbly one. you can do that as well. So I'm gonna delete the wobbly one actually, because I think originally I did use the function. So I'm just gonna put it up there. On the same layer, I'm going to create a body of this bubble tea cup. If you want to be like super precise, you can use the symmetry tool. But I'm not looking to be super accurate. So this is just a sketch. And then the straw goes almost to the bottom. At any point, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a time code and ask your questions in the comment below. So these are the bubbles. All right, so this is the rough shape of our bubble tea. I'm gonna reposition it and maybe make it a smaller. Actually, I'm gonna move everything up just a little bit. There you go. So now with the sketch selected, I'm gonna lower the opacity. You can tap the N on your layer and then just lower the opacity, or you can use the gesture, which is using 2 fingers, tap on your layer, and then it will activate the opacity, and then you can just slide 1 finger up and down to find your opacity. There you go. And then I'm gonna draw everything on top of this new layer. So I don't know if you remembered or you can see it clearly that there are some swirls happening in the bubble tea. So that's when the brown sugar meets the cream. There's some beautiful marbling effect. So I'm gonna start with that first. Actually, I'm gonna do that a little bit later because I wanna draw the shape of the body and then use that as a clipping mask, which will make sense in a minute. So I'm gonna just zoom in and start drawing the body of this bubble tea. A lot of times I'm very tempted to just use the color drop, which means that you can create a closed shape and then just drop the color from the color dot. But I also understand that if you do that, your shape will look really flat, and then you have to use multiple layers on top to compensate the loss of texture. I would say different artists have different styles, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with being flat and looking flat. I think there is a beauty in that, but it's just not my style. So in my videos, you will see a lot of time-consuming coloring, which I actually really enjoy. If you can have like really nice music or some really interesting shows that you've been following, the time can be really therapeutic. So give it a try. So as you can see, when I'm drawing, there's some gaps in between naturally, just like how you do the coloring page. And I think that's really, really beautiful. Okay, so here's the basic structure of the cup. And then we want to create the lid. So I'm going to create it on the separate layer. Sometimes when your canvas is too big, you might not be able to create as many layers as you want, but as much as your canvas allows, create as many layers as possible, because that gives you so much flexibility. When you change color of one layer, like for example, if I'm gonna change the color of the lid, the other part, like the bottom of the cup, would not change. You might notice that I chose a different color. I'm going to show you how to change color and use the blending mode in a minute. So now we have the basics, and I think I'm going to try the straw next. Originally it's pink, but now we have the pink background. I'm wondering if we could use something else that just like pops. So this time I'm going to use the just change it to a different angle so it's easier for my wrist. I don't have to bend over as much. As you can see, I'm drawing the whole body of this straw, even though knowing that part of the straw is going to be erased later, which is a great opportunity to talk about masking, like especially layer masks. One really good thing about digital illustration is that there's so much flexibility, which means that if you really understand the non-destructive way of working your layers, you can really revert a lot of earlier decisions, which I think is really helpful. All right, so here's our straw. As you can see, part of the straw is covered just naturally. So I don't really need it. Instead of erasing this part permanently, I am going to use the layer mask, which just basically means I'm gonna hide this part. Later, if I, for whatever reason, if I want to reposition the straw, I can still like bring the straw back. To create a layer mask, we want to tap on our straw layer and tap on the thumbnail and then click on mask. So as you can see, we have a layer mask. And this part is a little bit not intuitive, because to hide something, we're actually not going to use the eraser, but use the black pencil, like the black color with whatever brush. So now with the black selected, I am going to just hide this part. So whatever I draw, it almost works like eraser, even though it's black. At this point, I do want, pencil has, my pencil brush had some kind of transparency. Right now I want a solid brush. So I'm gonna go back to my fine liners and choose one of the brushes. It's called Lo-Fi Crackles. This one is solid in the middle, but has texture on the edge. So if I'm just like erasing around it, it will really like knock out the middle portion without like having like a ghost pixels. So here's the advantage of using the layer mask. Say that if by accident you over erased it, and you can totally just bring it back by switching to the white color. I do have a color palette that is purely black and white and gray. so I have it on hand. Otherwise, you can just turn it into white by tapping here and then change your values. I'm gonna go back to white. So going back to this part that I over erased, so I'm just gonna use the white to bring it back. Ta-da! It's really non-destructive. So if you use the white to draw the whole thing, you can bring the whole thing back. But right now, we only want part of it. What's so good about it is that not only you can erase and you can hide and reveal, you can also partially hide by using gray. So if you use one of the gray colors and then just draw over your shape, it will make it like semi-transparent, which is really nice because when the straw is under the milk, it's not really transparent. If you choose a darker shade of gray, it will make it even more transparent, like what I'm doing now. I don't think this was part of the original illustration process, but sometimes you reflect on your things, on your craft, and you improve. There you go. So here we have the basics of our lid and the cup and straw. So now let's talk about the lid. So originally there's some kind of pattern on my lid. So I'm gonna bring that back. I really like it. So I'm gonna go back to my lid and I wanna create a new layer and then turn this into a clipping mask. So just tap on the thumbnail and tap on clipping mask. You can choose whatever color, choose something that is really different. So maybe this yellow. And then I'm gonna use my pattern brush, which is, I think, organic geometric, whatever. I'll put it on screen so you know what they look like. And I'm gonna choose one pattern that is, I'm gonna, actually I really still like my original choice. It's called Glitchy. And then I'm gonna change the size of it and then just draw over. Because we have the clipping mask, even if you're drawing outside, it only shows the overlapped area. And I'm gonna play with the blending mode a little bit. So tap on the N on the layer and then just go through the list until, ooh, I really like this color. This is not bad too, but I'm also keeping an eye on the contrast. This color for the lid itself, it's really pretty, but it's kind of has very similar value as the milk tea. It's kind of like blending together, unless I want to add a line somewhere. So I'm just gonna actually sticking to, well, I'm gonna keep it yellow for now. And then now we're gonna work on the swirl. So I'm gonna create a new layer on top of my cup, the body of the cup. And then I'm just gonna choose solid liner. So this is melted butter, but it's pretty thick. So I'm gonna choose some like dark, like brown sugar color. So I'm gonna draw completely outside and then maybe change the diameter. You want it to be bigger than your cup because when you swirl things, they're gonna shrink. You can vary your color here if you want. It will add more interesting textures for sure. So, and vary the size and the color. I think this is pretty good. At least I'm willing to start trying. So I'm gonna tap on the adjustment and almost all the way to the bottom, tap on liquify. And there are different options at the bottom of the screen. What we want is the twirl. You can twirl left or right. It doesn't really matter over here. And then depending on your setting, you can change the size, pressure, distortion, momentum. As you can see, when we click somewhere, it's gonna create some kind of visual tornado, which is awesome. It mimics the marbly effect of the bubble tea. I really like this texture. So if you want your swirl to move one direction instead of twirling, you can choose push, which is the first option. And then you can just like nudge your swirls to the direction that you want. So now with the swirl in place, I'm going to turn this into a clipping mask. So this swirl layer is sitting right on top of the cup layer. So I'm just gonna tap the thumbnail, and then select clipping mask. Ta-da! This is a little dramatic, so I'm gonna lower the opacity so you can barely see the swirls. And then I'm going to create a new layer on top of the cup to create my bubbles, which I think is the soul of bubble tea. I'm gonna switch back to my pencils. So this one, to keep the texture consistent, you can keep your bubble big or small. Notice that right now when I draw the bubbles, it sits behind the straw. That is because it is under the straw layer. So maybe I want to draw some bubbles behind and draw some above. I think the original process video was done a little bit differently. Again, time is a great thing. It gives you space to reflect on your process, and you do improve. So I'm just drawing. They're roughly in the same size. There should be more at the bottom because they're heavier than the liquid. Okay, I think that's enough. So I'm gonna create one more layer on top of the straw just to have some bubble that is sitting on top. All right, I think that is a pretty good representation. I'm gonna delete my sketch layer. You can just swipe left and hit delete. So your canvas look a little bit cleaner. What else did I do? So I'm gonna create a top layer and make it white. Actually, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently. So I'm gonna go back to the layer mask of my straw. Remember, that's where we hid this part and then make the bottom part transparent. I'm gonna use the white. I'm gonna use the black, the black liner again to create just this rim of the straw. I'm gonna use the liner because I want it to be a little more, I want the line to be a little more solid. There you go. All right. Now looking at our straw, I think now the straw looks a little ghosty because you shouldn't be able to see this half of the bubble. So I'm just gonna go to this bubble and erase it, or use the layer mask. So tap on your thumbnail and create a mask, and then just erase this part. Whenever you do a mask, layer mask, that means that it's revertible. I don't know if that's a word. So if you say that for whatever reason you want to move the bubble to a different spot, and then you can still use the white marker to paint back what you have hidden. There you go. Now it looks a lot more natural. All right. Looking back at our original bubble tea, I think there's some sprinkles around that we missed. So I'm gonna create a new layer on top and then select my sprinkles. The official name is Gentle Speckles. It has, I think, 7 brushes that has different varieties and density of the speckle effect. So I'm gonna use this Gentle Speckles Fast Fine Dust. So this one I'm gonna use maybe yellow color. Ooh, this one is a little too dense. Okay, perfect. And then maybe you can layer it with another cooler color. This one is called Gentle Speckles Summer Sky. So now we have the little confettis around it. In the original video, the background has a bit of texture of the inky stamp, so I don't want to miss that. I'm gonna go back to the pink layer and create a new layer on top. I am going to sample the pink layer and then change the blending mode to multiply. So tap on N and then slide it all the way up and make sure you have multiply. So what this one does is that it has a little screen printing effect. So if I'm to draw on top of, that's the wrong brush. So I'm gonna pick up my inky stamp and then it means that if I'm gonna use the same color on top, because of the blending mode, it's gonna appear to be the darker shade of the color. So it just gives you a nice subtle inky stamp texture. If it's too strong, you can change the opacity. So double finger tap on the layer and then change the opacity by sliding one finger left and right. So that is pretty much what we had for our bubble tea. If you like my teaching style, I have close to 30 illustration classes on Skillshare. You can grab your free trial link in the description today to kickstart your own creative journey. In the meantime, grab a bubble tea and enjoy the summer. I'll see you in the next video.